shepherd a Instagram account that's about 2 years old now called Columbus Collects. This was born out of a need to use what I had at hand to help the arts. How can we talk about the everyday person that has art in their house and help them see themselves as a collector? I thought to myself, I have a ton of artwork in my house. I know a ton of other people that have a ton of artwork in their house. The first iteration was just reaching out to those people to help demystify the act of collecting art.
So I have known Kat Sheridan for a very long time, probably since I was about 10 or 11 years old. She knows my whole family really well and knows how much we love art, and we all have a lot of art. And so she asked if we wanted to do the Instagram takeover for Columbus Collects. There's a ton of family connection to most of the art that I shared because I have a lot of artists in my family and a lot of friends that are artists. The more I started thinking about all of the things that we had, all of the pieces that we had, the harder it was to choose. But what I really appreciated about it is, you know, what constitutes art is it's a very broad definition. So we have, and I would say my whole family have a lot of functional art, things that you use. So my teapot, I've had since, I think, close to my first college graduation around 2003. It's made by my Aunt Brenda. She makes beautiful ceramic pieces, but her teapots are just amazing and just exquisite. And yeah, we use her mugs. They sit on the shelves with the rest of our mugs. But sometimes I'm definitely intentional about using hers. So this is a really beautiful wooden box that's made out of multiple types of wood. I think there's 4 or 5. And this was a gift from a very close friend of mine. Her name is Janie. Our daughter came to us through adoption. And so Janie was trying to come up with the perfect adoption gift for Harper, and she definitely nailed perfect. So she had her late husband's father, who's a woodworker, build this beautiful kind of keepsake box or a jewelry box. It has his name on the bottom, and he also puts a little penny embedded in his work. So it's just really special, and you know, it just holds a lot of meaning. They're just really dear friends, and it's just such a special piece. I honestly don't know how I ended up with this portrait. So it's my little brother who also went to art school. He went to Cleveland Institute of Art. It's a self-portrait he did of himself in high school, but it's totally my brother. Like, the look on the face is just my brother through and through, and I think that's one of the things that I really like about it. And doing it in high school is just an amazing piece. He's just very talented.
So each takeover is asked to have a selfie on the front end and on the back end to bookend their collection, just kind of give it a nice hug from both sides. Beyond that, I'm looking for people to expand their palette and support artists, particularly local, wherever you go. I think there's something really special about being able to link back to an experience, whether it's like an art fair or you've gone on vacation and there are artisans with their tents and their wares up. And there's something really kind of amazing about being able to collect an artist on the front end. And so we were talking, how do we kind of span that gap?
As a historian, I mostly worked with historical artwork. When I took the job at Otterbein University in 2014 as museum and galleries director, all of the artwork that we show, for the most part, is contemporary artists. And so I just became much more engaged with the contemporary art scene. The wonderful thing about collecting contemporary art is that you have the opportunity to actually meet the artists. It isn't transactional. There are wonderful opportunities to have really high quality original work in a home that people connect to directly and very personally. I think what Kat is doing to develop a culture of collecting is really important in Columbus. She's gone one step further in showing the way in which collecting can happen by anybody. I decided to participate after I watched all of the diversity on the Columbus Collects Instagram site. People were excited, they were happy to share their work. You got to hear the collectors' personal stories and their connection to the artwork. And I really enjoyed seeing that. So I thought, well, I have a few pieces that would fit into this model, so I'd love to share what I have too. One of the pieces that I'm most excited about having is a piece by Chuck Surrey, which is these blue and green teapots sort of floating in space. And it's a still from an animation. So it's really a next step, I think, in the way that artists think about space and time. Everything about it just is, to me, is about Chuck Surrey and the history of his work. One of the pieces is a watercolor by an artist who's Canadian. Her name is Vedigiri, and she works mostly in pastels, doing more realistic artwork. But she was working on a series with watercolor and experimenting with water reflection, and I just love the way in which it's clearly a figural representation, but I love the abstraction and how she works with abstraction and reflection in watercolor. I find it to be just an amazing piece. That little work is by Lein Bangdal, who's a Nepali artist. He was really the first artist to bring modern art to Nepal. I met him through his daughter. We were colleagues, and I just fell in love with his work. The piece shows a peasant figure resting with his head down, kind of almost as though he's nodding off to sleep. And I selected that piece because it reminded me of the literature. He's also known for his novels, which speak about the ordinary person and the challenges and struggles that the ordinary person faces in the context of Nepal. So to me, it represented more of his overall ethos.
I think that collecting art helps people capture moments in time.
Anybody can collect, anybody can acquire original art, anyone can afford it.
The value in collecting is giving your space warmth and giving your space meaning. And this initiative is to really celebrate the community that comes from collecting art.